Golf. The sport has always been known as the gentleman's game, where integrity, etiquette and manners mean as much, if not more, than winning. These high ideals underpin the Ryder Cup, but the intensity of competition is like nothing else. ...2012 saw the Medina Country Club in Chicago play host to the 39th Ryder Cup. It produced one of golf's greatest occasions, as Europe somehow came back to defeat the United States. 85 years since its inception, the Ryder Cup is now one of the most compelling rivalries in world sport.
It's nice to be part of a winning team, and I've been on winning and losing teams, and losing sucks.
It is a unique challenge.
There's no other pressure, intensity, drama like the Ryder Cup.
I wanted them to know that you're going to have pressure like you've never felt playing a regular golf tournament.
There has been gamesmanship.
Floyd just walked up and said, "You're not going to cough today, you're not going to do this or that." You know, and Seve just looked at him and there was no problem. Seve's cough disappeared.
It's a rivalry of patriotism.
If you have any nationalistic pride in you, you do put your country before self.
I'm proud to be part of that team, and I damn right should be.
But most of all, it's a rivalry where losing is not an option.
Come on. Let's win this match, Seve.
We go kick their butt. I mean, let's have fun. You know, let's go take care of business.
In 1921 at Gleneagles, a friendly match between America and Great Britain took place, sowing the seeds of the Ryder Cup that we know today. 5 years later at Wentworth, there was a rematch with one particularly interested spectator, a wealthy seed merchant called Samuel Ryder.
He watched the Americans playing there along with the best of the British and Irish players of the day and thought, wouldn't it be a cracking idea if we had these guys play against each other to promote friendship between the golfers of the two countries, if you like, and he put up the now famous elegant golden trophy, and the Ryder Cup came into being.
The first 4 Ryder Cups were shared. 1933 proved to be a classic, Great Britain winning on the final hole to take the trophy. It was to be their last win for 24 years.
Americans were always recognised as being the stronger. They had greater strength and depth. You know, there were 250 million of them for a start.
Despite Britain winning in 1957, America were the dominant force, but there were classic moments. In 1969, Tony Jacklin and Jack Nicklaus were level on the final hole at Royal Birkdale.
We both hit good shots on the last. Mine was toward the back of the green. He had about a 20-footer.
I hit my first putt, figuring I might have to make this to win the Ryder Cup. And I ran it by the hole about 4.5, 5 feet. Then Tony putted and ran it up, inside of 2 feet.
And like the great player, he's hold it and picked my marker up.
I just instinctively reached over and picked up Tony's coin. He says, "You're going to give me that?" I says, "You never would have missed it anyway."
Tremendous sportsmanship on his part.
My captain wasn't real happy with me. What the most important thing was that I think it was the right thing to do.
It was a great example of sportsmanship, but the Americans could be magnanimous when they were so superior.
Britain suffered for a long time after the war to get its act together in sports and golf.
We always used to say, well, why can't we have golf bags like they have? And, you know, our golf bags never looked as good as theirs. It was all sort of, they all seemed to have one up on the first tee.
As America's superiority continued throughout the 1970s, interest in the tournament began to wane, even amongst some of the players. In 1977, former Open champion Tom Weiskopf rejected the chance to play.
Tom marched the beat of a different drummer. I think he had a big hunting trip planned, and the Ryder Cup interfered with it, so I think he'd already paid for the hunting trip, and he was going to go hunting.
It was shocking to those of us over here that a guy should prefer to climb a mountain and shoot a goat than to shoot some birdies.
In 1977, America recorded their 18th win in 22 Ryder Cups. Something had to change, despite new British talent emerging.
We beat him like a drum every year. So I went to John Darby and I said, this Ryder Cup is such a great event that shouldn't include all of the European players that are part of your tour now.
It was decided that, yeah, that was a good idea. And so that 1977 was the last of the Great Britain and Ireland teams, and 1979 was the first of the European teams, and that is when we can talk about the modern Ryder Cup.
Widening the net to include Europe had little initial impact. Defeat in 1979 was followed by a hammering on home soil in 1981. The team needed a captain who understood the Ryder Cup, and they chose a man who'd been central to their last success, Tony Jacklin.
Tony had two conditions to becoming captain for 1983. He said, one, they had to fly better. Before that, they'd been flying across the Atlantic in economy seats. They had to fly first class. They had to wear the best cotton and the best cashmere. Tony's other condition was very simple. Seve Ballesteros comes back into the team.
The mercurial Spaniard had missed the 1981 match due to a financial dispute. Jacklin charmed him back into the fold.
He say, listen, Seve, I need you very badly to be on the team. I talk to my brothers, and they all say, Seve, you have no choice, you know. Seve, the British people love you. They need you for the Ryder Cup. So go to Tony and say, you play for the team in the Ryder Cup. I called Tony Jacklin and said, Tony, I'll be part of your team. He said, Seve, you make my day. Great, thank you very much. Now we're going to win.
Ballesteros was the final piece in Europe's jigsaw. He was the catalyst as this rivalry was transformed, and the Spaniard became synonymous with the Ryder Cup.
Seve was like a one-man army. That's what Seve was like. He was awesome.
Like a possessed human being.
Seve, believed in taking gamesmanship to the highest form.
If Seve knew he could push your buttons, he would.
Seve was always into everything. He liked to be in charge, and he liked to be in everybody's face, and it definitely upped the ante in the Ryder Cup, no question.
In 1983, the European team flew into Palm Beach, Florida on Concorde. For the first time in a generation, they were going to give America a game. And things went according to Jacklin's plan, as Europe finished the second day level with the USA. The pivotal singles match for the 1983 Ryder Cup was between Jose Maria Canizares and Lanny Wadkins.
I literally had to win the 18th hole to tie my match for us to win 14.5, 13.5. Jose Maria had like 75, 80 yards to the hole, and I had 72, and he left it on the front edge of the green. I hit it a foot from the hole. Won the hole and tied my match, and I walked up on the green. I was so excited. Tom Kite slapped me on the back. I went to say something. Nothing came out. First time in my life I've ever been speechless.
Jacklin and Nicklaus, the protagonists of the famous concession, were captains of the closest finish since 1969. Europe may have lost, but America knew they'd been in a game.
Everybody was very disappointing. Everybody was very sad. And I look back to everyone and say, hey, guys, why are you so sad? Why your head is down, you know? You don't realize that this is for us like a victory.
1985 saw the Europeans take to the Ryder Cup full of confidence. Even their supporters now believed things would turn in Europe's favour. The home galleries became more boisterous, turning the rivalry up.
Mark O'Meara and I were playing. He got on the first tee, and they introduced us both, and the entire grandstands booed us. And he looked at me, and I mean, his face turned as white as my shirt. He wasn't expecting that. And he said, well, what do we do? I said, we go kick their butt. I mean, let's have fun. You know, let's go take care of business. This is what it's all about. I loved it.
O'Meara and Wadkins helped stem a European charge on day 2. After losing their first 2 matches, America needed to respond against Ballesteros and Manuel Pinheiro. They achieved their aim, despite Seve's gamesmanship.
I had about a 25-footer for birdie, and Seve's coin was in my line. I asked him to move it out of the way, and he did. And I pulled my putt, it hit his coin and went in the hole, and he kind of went nuts. He said, you do that on purpose. You have me move my coin so you can make that putt. I said, yeah, Seve, I'm that friggin' good, and don't forget it.
3 wins from 4 on the Saturday afternoon saw Europe go into the singles needing 5 points from 12 matches to win the Ryder Cup. A comfortable victory was achieved, Scotsman Sam Torrance clinching the crucial point for only the 2nd European win since 1933. The enemy had finally been vanquished.
It was great, it was great, it was great. The biggest satisfaction was not winning the Ryder Cup. My biggest satisfaction was to see the British people so happy, because they were waiting for so many years to see that moment. It made me feel fantastic.
The newly found confidence of the European side was clear 2 years later. In 1987, Europe beat the Americans on their own turf for their first ever away win. And in 1989, Jacqueline again led Europe as they tied 14-all to retain the trophy.
In its own way, terrifically entertaining, but terrifically entertaining in the way that a bad car smash is. You can't take your eyes off it, but you don't like what you see.
By 1991, the Ryder Cup rivalry was unique. Never again would a European team feel inferior to an American side. For the first time, America had started to lose, and by 1991 at Kiowa Island, the rivalry was at fever pitch.
It was intense.
There was a bad atmosphere at that Ryder Cup right from the start.
The European contingent was, getting together on one sand dune, and across the fairway, the American contingent was together, and they were yelling back and forth at each other, kind of like a football match. It was really a different atmosphere than anything we'd seen. I liked it.
The match had been labelled a war on the shore before a ball had been struck. The first match saw Ballesteros and Jose Maria Olazabal take on Paul Azinger and Chip Beck.
We have a little dispute.
They would alternate in the golf ball, which obviously wasn't allowed in them days.
You switching the compression on the tee?
I don't think so.
You did?
I'm sure.
Paul Azinger denied all the time that they were switching the balls.
I know that Chip hit a 100 compression on number 7. That I'm sure about.
No, you know what?
And then on number 9, he hit a 90 compression. I'm sure about that ball.
They decided to have a 25-minute chat on the 10th tee, arguing.
The referee say if you call that they are switching balls, it has to be on the same hole.
You have to make a claim.
Because that is the rule, it's fine.
Yes, that is, please. Okay.
You're 3 down, and you have to keep playing. Jose Maria say, okay, he said, come on, let's win this match, Seve.
They won 5 holes in the next 7 or 8 holes and beat them 2-1.
America took control on the Saturday morning, winning 3 of 4 matches. Seve tried to help his team by developing a bad cough that mysteriously occurred in the middle of his opponent's backswing, a policy which had varying degrees of success.
Floyd got him on Saturday, and he just walked up and said, you're not going to cough today, you're not going to do this or that, and Seve just looked at him, and there was no problem. Seve's cough disappeared.
By the Saturday afternoon, Europe were trailing by 3 points. The volatile atmosphere only increased when American duo Corey Pavin and Steve Pate stood on the first tee wearing Desert Storm camouflage hats.
That's my fault. They really didn't like me picking camouflage in the hats, but we were in Desert Storm, and we got racked over the coals. I mean, it should not have been the war by the shore, but that's what it got labeled.
These were merely the minor ingredients to an enthralling golf match. With the sun setting on Sunday evening, the USA led 14-13. The Ryder Cup would be settled by the last match between Hale Irwin and Bernhard Langer. The pair were all square on the 18th. Then Hale Irwin's wayward tee shot somehow found its way onto the middle of the fairway.
One of two things could have happened. The ball could have decided to move itself into that spot, or possibly more likely, a misguided American supporter had picked it up and thrown it there.
Despite that lucky break, Europe would retain the trophy if Langer holed his putt. For the first time since 1983, America had won the Ryder Cup. And today, the war on the shore still divides opinion.
It's not a war. If you can't look each other in the eye at the end of it and shake hands and say, you know, see you next time, well, then it's a poor job, and you're not much of a sport, in my opinion.
It's just the Europeans whining. That's all it is.
We weren't too pleased about some things either, so let's just say that we'll let bygones be bygones, and things that were said, let them die.
That was a pretty nasty Ryder Cup as far as I remember.
Bernhard Langer's heartbreaking miss on the 18th to give the cup to America summed up the very unique sporting test that is the Ryder Cup.
I think Ryder Cups are always a little more pressure, just from the standpoint that every shot you hit, it matters to 12 other people.
And then players get on the first tee and pray that they just hit it.
When I became captain, I had 6 first-time Ryder Cuppers on my team. I wanted them to know that you're going to have pressure like you've never felt playing a regular golf tournament.
It's not just me trying to hold that 6-footer for the win for myself. I'm trying to hold that 6-footer for my country and the team. And that's a situation which you're not accustomed to.
The USA retained the cup in 1993. Europe were the victors 2 years later. And in 1997, opposing captain Tom Kite was left trailing in Seve's wake as the Spaniard captained Europe to a 1-point victory in Valderrama, Spain. The 1999 Ryder Cup was held at the Brookline Country Club in Boston, with the Americans desperate to win the trophy.
Wonderful course, wonderful city. Should have been a wonderful Ryder Cup. In the end, it wasn't.
The American crowd were boisterous even by recent standards, but they failed to make a dent in the Europeans' charge. With the 12 singles matches to play, they were 10-6 ahead. No team had ever come back from such a deficit, but the American captain, Ben Crenshaw, remained positive.
I'm going to leave y'all on one thought, and I'm going to leave. I'm a big believer in faith. I have a good feeling about this. That's all I'm going to tell you.
On the Sunday morning, Davis Love III beat Jean van der Velde to kick things off. As the scoreboard went from blue to red, the American fans increased their revelry and their behaviour deteriorated to the dismay of the Europeans.
It was the worst crowd in golf that I personally have ever experienced. Certainly the worst that Colin Montgomery has ever experienced, because he took some really vile abuse.
If there's ever been anything about the Europeans that irritated me, was that when they come over here and even win or lose, they always find something wrong with the galleries.
The penultimate match between Justin Leonard and Jose Maria Olazabal looked like being the decider. Leonard had been 4 down with 8 to play, but the Texan clawed it back. By the 17th, Leonard had a 40-foot putt to claim the half-point America needed. Sparking, outrageous scenes.
They rampaged across the green, which in a sense was fine, except they ran right across Olazabal's line. He yet had his putt, which if he holed it would have halved that hole.
Everybody's going to get a little bit over-exuberant at times, and you know, I'm sure the Americans would say that sometimes the European fans go overboard. That's just part and parcel of it.
The media, both in America and back in Europe, latched onto those scenes at Brookline as one of the low points of the Ryder Cup. But regardless, it was one of the most sensational comebacks ever seen in the competition.
A lot of stuff that has gone unmentioned and unlooked upon was the fact of how well the Americans played on the Sunday. I mean, they played sensational golf on the Sunday.
Great comeback, very magical, but then again, Ben Crenshaw's had that golden horseshoe shoved so far up his butt for his entire life. It was just another case of it's just going to turn his way.
for all the bad blood, 1999 cemented the Ryder Cup as one of the world's great events. Viewing figures confirm it as the third most watched sporting competition. And as the stakes have increased, the players have become even more determined.
These kids train very hard. They, go to bed early. They drink a lot of milk, and they have their sports psychologists. And, our idea of a sports psychologist was a bartender each week. And, we weren't drinking milk, we were drinking scotch.
The way in which it grabs the imagination and the way in which it cranks up the interest to phenomenal levels. It's so established now as one of the great rivalries in sport.
The 2002 Ryder Cup was much more sombre, postponed for a year after the tragic events of 9/11. Europe won, but both teams came out triumphant. The work done by captains Sam Torrance and Curtis Strange, behind the scenes, highlighted the huge responsibility carried by a Ryder Cup captain.
A good Ryder Cup captain needs to use his experience, I think, and he needs the courage to go with his gut.
When Lanny Wadkins was the captain for the American team, he said that he lost 2 years of his life. I'm not going to say that, but it took from me a lot.
The problem with being captain of something like that is when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, it's out of your control. The guys just have to take care of business, and you're sitting there. It's a pretty helpless feeling at the end when you can't really get in there and hit a shot.
We have here only one mission, and the mission is to win 14.5 points, and that's it. I don't want any individual performance here. I don't want any heroes here. I don't care. I want 14.5 points. That's all.
The European team continued their dominance into the first decade of the new century, winning in 2004 and 2006 to claim a hat-trick of victories. America stopped the rot with a comfortable win in Valhalla in 2008, but Europe regained the trophy a Celtic manner in 2010. By 2012, the Ryder Cup seemed to be at a crossroads. Having only won 4 of their previous 13, the USA needed a good performance to keep the rivalry competitive. They were superb, taking a commanding lead of 10-4 with only 2 matches left to play on the penultimate day.
Rory and I said during that round of golf, I was flat, he was flat. There was no energy in that side. And because we were beaten so badly, being beaten, it's really hard to get your adrenaline back up because the ball's not looking good.
Europe needed a hero. They got 2. Luke Donald pulled a point back. Then Ian Poulter stepped up to the plate.
When momentum gets going in a situation like at Medina, it's hard to get it to stop. You need one player to step up and take care of business. I think Ian Poulter did it for the Europeans on Saturday afternoon, and that was a big stop by him when it really would have gone too far to come back regardless.
In order for Poulter to win a point for Europe, he had to birdie those 5 last holes, and he did.
You can't help but see 20,000 people standing in a grandstand. I've got all this in my peripheral vision thinking, I cannot wait to hold this putt, to fist pump straight to my team and just give them all the energy that I've possibly got because we've got the chance to win.
It's the most extraordinary single individual performance of any Ryder Cup that I have any knowledge of.
We had a larger deficit going into Sunday than we did going into Saturday. But it didn't feel like it. It felt like we had a chance to go and win.
The next day, Captain Olafable front-loaded his team to get points on the board. They delivered. Justin Rose, Donald, Poulter, Rory McIlroy and Paul Lawrie won Europe's first 5 matches to leave America stunned.
As the Americans' head went down, the European chins came up. And as individual American players then, in the middle of those orders and towards the end, saw those scoreboards and began to realise, crikey, this might come down to me.
Europe powered on until Martin Keimer's putt retained the cup. It was a breathtaking comeback performance by the European side and the most dramatic Ryder Cup ever witnessed.
Somehow, the Americans managed to pull defeat from the jaws of victory, and Europe did otherwise. It was terrific.
It was one of the most incredible experiences I'm ever going to experience, probably in my golfing career. I mean, I just don't know I don't know how you can possibly top that.
It is a unique challenge in golf. Events at Medina in 2012 confirmed the Ryder Cup as one of the great sporting rivalries.
Ryder Cup has a history, tradition. It's us versus them.
It's a wonderful competition.
Both sides really like to win.
As a team thing, there's nothing like it.
The size of it and the interest in it is fantastic.
One of the great honors in your life because you're representing your country.
There's nothing better feeling or better taste to beat the best. You always want to beat the best.
I respect every golfer on their team, but when the bell goes, let's go at it.